We're back with the breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Nick Agule will join us this morning as a public affairs analyst. Nick, it's good to have you join us on the second conversation.
Thank you very much, Mercy.
All right, then. A bit of a background to the conversation. The federal government has finally approved the disbursement of Cabotage Vessel Financing Fund, 18 years after ship owners' contribution to the controversial Cabotage Fund. Now, the CVFF was established alongside the Nigerian Coastal and Inland Shipping, that's the Cabotage Act of 2003, to empower indigenous ship owners to take control of the nation's coastal and inland shipping business, otherwise known as cabotage trade. Well, the Minister of Transportation said that the President Muhammadu Buhari approved the disbursement of over $350 million fund following the conviction that the money belongs to ship owners. There's a question mark to that. He said that they approved the approval would break the 17-year-old jinx that has hindered the expansion of shipping industry. Sambo added that the banks were recommended to the president an approval based on guidelines which clearly stated that the applicants of the fund would make an equity contribution of 15%, while NIMASA would make an equity contribution of 35% and 50% will be provided by the banks. To have this conversation, Nick Agule joins us this morning. Nick, it's good to have you join us.
Thank you very much, Mercy, for welcoming me on the show, and good morning to all our viewers.
Let's take off on this note. How would you describe, the cabotage operation in the country as Nigeria?
Well, I would describe it as another opportunity that is not being taken by Nigeria, opportunity lost. Cabotage, which specifically in the shipping industry, is a huge global trade. And Nigeria is blessed in all ways, because Nigeria has the whole of the southern boundary of Nigeria is with the Atlantic Ocean. From the beginning of of Nigeria's eastern boundary, southern boundary, to the western southern boundary, we have the Atlantic Ocean. And that is a huge blessing, because there are countries that are landlocked. Nigeria is not. And so if we didn't lose this opportunity, Nigeria will be one of the biggest global shipping centers in the world. You look at the likes of Singapore. Yes, Singapore is an island, a little island. All of Singapore's borders are in waters. But Singapore has developed its shipping industry to one of the topmost in the world. And this is an opportunity that Nigeria should have easily taken, that we could have developed our cabotage in such a way that international trade, shipping and all of that will be happening in Nigeria. And to make matters even better for us, Nigeria has crude oil. So a place like Singapore, they don't have crude oil, but we have crude oil. And with crude oil, we could refine our crude oil into the fuel that the vessels use. So you would have seen a lot of vessels sail into Nigeria to take their bunker, what they call bunker, that is take their fuel, and then deliver cargo and take cargo out. So this is a multi-billion dollar industry that is just sitting there as a low-hanging fruit for which Nigeria is not yet plucking. So that is my view about cabotage in Nigeria.
Nick, thank you very much. For those who want to understand what we're talking about, can you break it down for the viewers? The Cabotage Vessels Finance Fund, which has been withheld for 17 years. What is this about when we talk about cabotage and the Cabotage Vessels Finance Fund?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So let me just say, what is cabotage? Cabotage is any means of transportation, whether it is by air, by sea, by road. So that is cabotage. And in this specific instance, we're discussing cabotage by water, that is shipping. And now what the government of Nigeria did was that In 2003, the government of Nigeria enacted a law called the Coastal and Inland Services Cabotage Law of 2003. What this law is meant to do is that this law now restricts shipping services within the coastal and inland waterways of Nigeria to Nigerian-owned companies and Nigeria-owned shipping vessels. So the vessel must be flagged as Nigerian, that means registered in Nigeria, and the owners of that vessels will have to be Nigerians. So this is what this cabotage law came to do. It came to open up the hitherto foreign-dominated shipping industry in Nigeria to Nigerian companies. And because Nigerian companies do not have the financial capacity and even the technical and operational capacity to take advantage of the cabotage law, the law now created this cabotage vessel financing fund, which is 2% of any contract by a shipping vessel, international or local, that is coming into Nigeria, is taken and warehoused in this fund. And this fund is now meant to be assessed by Nigerian shipping companies so that they can build the necessary capacity. They will buy the vessels, they will repair the vessels, they will maintain the vessels, they will train the crew to be able to now operate in accordance with the cabotage law, which restricts coastal and inland shipping services to Nigerian flagged ships and Nigerian owned ships. So that is what this is all about.
But let's begin to talk about this, because I mean it's fine that the government is saying, oh, these funds have to be distributed, to the owners of the ships. But there's also another controversy or argument that's been put out, which has also been confirmed by NIMASA, the agency responsible for regulating her activities, that some of this, you have some of these ships that are not Nigerian owned, but are just being fronted by Nigerians. For instance, we know that the Cabotage Act of 2003, we understand what it was meant for, is seek to protect, the Nigerian seafarers and the shipping industry, from a lot of exploitation. But however, foreign seafarers are still being smuggled from neighboring Togo and Benin Republic, to board vessels on the nation waters in the country, of course, which is actually contrary to the law. And so how do we explain the disbursement of these funds and the fact that we can't really for sure ascertain that these ships are owned by Nigerians?
Okay, so thank you very much for that question, which is quite apt. And I will break that question down into two parts. The first part is that, yes, indeed, as it is with almost everything in Nigeria, we set out the laws, very fine laws, like this Cabotage Act. The problem then becomes implementation. Those who are tasked with the responsibility to implement these laws, are they doing their job? And I will agree with you that they are not doing their job as expected. So there are all sorts of sharp practices. I mean, about up to like 2 years ago, I was actually in the industry because I was working in a company that was shipping crude oil produced in the swamps onto the VSCC, that is a big ship in the Atlantic Ocean, which was the floating storage and offloading vessel in the Atlantic Ocean. And I was a part of this industry, and I could see that those tasked with the responsibility to implement these laws aren't just doing their job as is expected. And that is something that a serious government should take up, because you expect that officials should be held to account for the jobs that they have taken upon themselves to do. So that's not happening. On the other side, we have this funding that is there now, which the Minister of Transportation says has grown to $350 million. In fact, in my mind, I would actually think that that fund should be into the billions of dollars now. But since the minister is looking into the pot, he says there's $350 million there. That money shouldn't have been allowed to be there for that long. That money needed to be disbursed to ship owners or shipping company owners who have gone through the appraiser of that intervention fund. There's a law guiding it, there are guidelines guiding it, and there are banks which are supposed to do due diligence, because the banks are going to be contributing 35%, that is the primary lending institutions will be contributing 35%, and no bank will give its 35% to a borrower that they have not done due diligence upon. So the structures are in place. There is just no reason why this funding shouldn't have been disbursed by now. And if that due diligence has happened, the risk that you have stated out, which is foreign ship owners masking as Nigerian ship owners, or people just coming to shadow foreign ship owners, will all be disaggregated and unmasked. And authentic Nigerian businessmen who want to invest or who are already operating in the shipping industry will be the one that will be the ultimate beneficiaries.
All right.
So this is just about process.
Nick,
let the government officials responsible run this process as stated, and this fund will go to the appropriate quarters.
All right, Nick, there's always the concern, the fear, like you said, let the authorities run it as they should. I don't know if the banks can do anything to stop people from eating this money. I mean, we live in an environment where it's an existential fear, or let me say, it'll always be with us. Where when the agricultural loans first came up, I think under the administration of Obasanjo, people who didn't even have a meter of land, whenever farmers were getting these loans, they just go and post somewhere, take a picture and use someone's farm, and they get this money, they run away. So we hope this money will go to those who it's meant to go to, but the funding. But the training is a big part of what this program is meant to achieve. For instance, this is what the officials are saying, that the implementation of a coastal and inland shipping policy increased the demand for Nigerian seafarers, which as at the time was in gross shortage. And in addressing the aforementioned shortfall, the Federal Minister of Transportation and IMASA midwife the Nigerian Seafarers Development Program in 2008. So some of the money will go into the Nigerian Seafarers Development Program. And they're saying that they have made a choice. The program, as an intervention, was designed to train Nigerian youth to become seafarers. And they say the choice of foreign maritime institutions was mainly based on capacity and certification by the International Maritime Organization. So does it mean that our own maritime academy here in Oron, Akwa Ibom State, is not certified by the IMO? And that's why government is going to spend these dollars to train seafarers, and they want them to be globally competitive in foreign maritime institutions, maritime training institutions. That's number one. Our local maritime training institutions, are they not up to scratch? Number two, is this the federal government trying to save face? Because we know that some Nigerian cadets protested. These are cadets sent by NIMASA, to the Philippines. They had to go on the internet, on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, to cry that they had been abandoned by the federal government for some time. For some years, they had not been paid, their fees had not been paid, and they've been thrown out of their hostels and all that, and they were stuck on the streets of Manila in the Philippines. In fact, the Nigerian embassy was criticized for not attending to them and calling police officers to chase them away. I hope that this is not the government trying to save face. And do you think that something like this, such an amount of money, can be used to solve a problem like this? Because these are actually students under this National Seafarers Development Program, batch 2, actually.
Okay, thank you very much. So your question, which is quite apt, I will separate it into two parts. The first is about our own maritime academy, Ron. It is indeed certified by IMO, because I know that when I was operating in the shipping industry, some of the cadets that we had that actually finished their training, and we recruited them as officers on board our ships, came from Maritime Academy, Oron, and so they had those certificates. The second part is that then why is the federal government sending cadets to to be trained elsewhere. Well, it's also about capacity. The Oron Academy has a specific capacity. It's just like in the military. You know, we have a defense college in Abuja, but you also often see the government send officers to other defense colleges around the world because the defense college in Abuja can't possibly take all those who are training to become generals. But also, when you send people across the world, there's advantage there. You know, they learn different culture, different ways of doing things. They build networks across the world. So for that, it is okay that we are training cadets in Oron, but also sending them across the world.
Nick, we have to go now.
But, yeah, but the second point you made, the second point was those cadets that were stranded comes down to the same thing. Nigerian officials not doing the job that they need to do. If they did that, the money is there in the CFF, and why would these cadets now be stranded? They shouldn't be stranded.
All right.
Maybe
this is the government waking up after that viral video came out to save their face, which is reactionary, like we always say. Nick, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so very much, and have a nice day.
Well, that's the size of our conversation this morning on The Breakfast. We will return tomorrow with more interesting lineup. Please do well to join us tomorrow from 7 o'clock up until 9. We'll take a break. And if you missed out on any part of the conversation, it would be great to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. My name is Messi Boko. Have a fantastic Monday.
And my name is Kofi Partey. Also return tomorrow. The news at 9 is up next.